Welcome to the Lifestyle You podcast. I'm your host and health and fitness coach, Jenna Altman, and I'm so glad that you're here. Health and fitness don't have to be that complicated. Do you want to achieve a body you're proud of, gain physical and mental energy, and grow your confidence without giving up date night with your partner or starving yourself? The Lifestyle You podcast will provide you with the tools that you need to make your health and fitness fit into your lifestyle, not the other way around. The stories, lessons, and actionable takeaways from original episodes and guest interviews on this podcast will not only allow you to break through those limiting fears and beliefs, but also find freedom and confidence in the way that you move and fuel your body so that you can live your strongest, healthiest, and happiest life. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lifestyle You podcast. Today, we are going to chat about why you should take a break from your fitness tracker. So, aside from the fact that it gives you a terrible tan line, which is the honest truth, there is a lot of reasons why I think it's super important that we are taking a honestly dedicated break from our fitness trackers. And I'm going to actually open up with a client story from one of my current clients and share an experience that she went through that will probably resonate with a lot of you. And then we can kind of talk about why that was happening. Okay. So this is a client of mine. She was training for a half marathon. She shared how she was feeling super disappointed. She felt really slow and she wasn't even enjoying running anymore. Mind you, we weren't actually training specifically for this half marathon. She just decided kind of last minute that she wanted to sign up for one. And we had been doing a lot of strength training. So we weren't necessarily implementing, she was going for like a run once a week. We weren't really training for the actual half marathon. So I think it's important to mention that because a lot of people get overwhelmed when they try and focus on a race or a run. They get disappointed in themselves when they've been focusing on a different skill. Strength training is a different skill than running, right? So just keeping that in mind if you're struggling with that today or this week and you feel like you can't run as far as you used to, or that's not really a skill that you have developed in a while, just know that you can rebuild that, right? Like any other habit or skill that you've been paying attention to or focusing on, okay? So anyway, she decided that if she felt terrible on her next run, that she'd consider dropping down to a 10K instead. So a 10K is roughly 6 miles. So one day though, she went out for her long run, and during her run, right when it started, her watch actually died. So she was wearing an Apple Watch. And guess what happened? She had the best run that she's had in a really long time. So why did this happen? Honestly, I started thinking about it. I thought it was really interesting. And I decided, and we talked about it together, that she didn't have this pressure anymore of hitting a PR, right? She kept having this sort of preoccupation in her mind when she would go out for the run that she was slower than she used to be, that she couldn't keep up with her old pace, and that she wasn't in as best of shape as she was previously, right? So she didn't have that pressure anymore of hitting that PR. She also didn't have the pressure of pacing herself, right? So now she doesn't have that watch that's telling her how fast she's going or how slow she's going. So it wasn't holding her back anymore. Instead, she was just moving and doing what felt good in her body. She also didn't have the pressure from previous versions of herself. So like I said, right, this used to be a runner. This client used to be a runner who ran more consistently, and therefore she had better time on her half marathons. And that just goes to show you how important it is that we're not comparing ourselves to that past version of ourselves, because that can honestly hold us back a lot. And long story short, this client actually ran this half marathon and had her greatest time. She hit her best PR as a result of this work. So I want to just throw that out there and let you guys know that the fitness tracker does not tell you the whole picture. And sometimes we put such an emphasis on the data. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I have not done this. When I first got my Apple Watch, I think it was, over 5 years ago, I was obsessed with the data, right? I kept worrying about how many calories I was burning in a workout and how many steps I got. And I was so hyper-focused on closing my 3 rings. And I think for some people, that's a really good thing. I'm not discrediting the fact that it helps people be more conscious, get up more, move their bodies more. But sometimes for people who are kind of already really active and are already probably doing enough in the gym, it almost makes them even more crazy. I mean that very, like, I say that in a loving way, of course, because again, this was me. And sometimes I can still get caught up in the data. So it's really important that when we are paying attention to this data, that we understand that while it is important and beneficial, it can also be harmful, especially if it's the wrong data to be looking at. So a lot of these numbers that we're looking at, when we're looking at our calories that we burn, when we're looking at our steps, those things, your steps especially, are important, but it's not this end all be all sort of metric that we want to hyper focus on, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can pay attention to in the realm of data that will be more beneficial to you. And this is especially for you if you feel like you've lost your enjoyment of the journey. If you feel like you are feeling stale in your health and fitness, if you're feeling really unmotivated, this is my invitation to you to take off your fitness tracker. Take a break from your fitness tracker. Maybe put your scale away. So if you're someone who weighs yourself constantly, put the scale away, take a break from that. And also, take a day, a week, an extended period of time off from tracking your food, okay? We can become really crazy about these things if they are not used as tools and instead used as coping mechanisms, okay? So use them as tools, not as coping mechanisms. And instead, I'm going to share with you some data that you can actually pay attention to and that actually moves the needle forward. So when we're talking about that kind of data that we're tracking, number one is going to be consistency. So I want to know how many workouts you've completed. I want to know how successful you've been in the gym, how many healthy, balanced meals that you've consumed, how many hours of sleep you've been getting per night, how your digestion's feeling, and if you've been doing these habits and practices on a consistent basis. This is the data that matters, okay? And this is going to remind us why we do this work in the first place. Number two, this is the second piece of data that we can utilize to our advantage to track our progress when it's not necessarily related to our fitness tracker. So biofeedback. So this is going to be our energy levels, our digestion, our stress levels, our cravings and hunger, our sex drive, our sleep, our menstrual cycles, things like that, right? So what our body is doing in response to our activities, the foods that we're eating, etc. This is a really good way to identify if you are making progress, if all of your biofeedback is trending in a good direction and you have more energy and you feel better, that's an excellent sign of progress, okay? Last one we're going to chat about today, and then I'm also going to attach a freebie for you guys to check out if you are interested in other ways to track your progress, is number three, the way that you feel. So notice how confident you feel, how strong you feel, maybe how happy you feel. And these metrics can be a really great way to identify how far you've come in your journey, as opposed to just the sort of blanket data of how many calories you burned, how many steps you got, have you moved your body, have you stood up today, like those sort of things. So it's important to remember that data can be really useful, right? And we can use data from many different facets. And that's why it's really important that if you are tracking on the scale, if you are tracking, things via your fitness tracker, just make sure that you have these other methods of tracking progress as well. So in today's show notes, I'm going to drop a freebie for you guys to review. It's 8 ways to track your progress. So you can look through those. I already chatted about a few of them here today, but it'll give you some more ideas if you're looking for different things to pay attention to give you some more purpose in your health and fitness journey, to help you kind of get out of that rut if you're feeling a little stale in your health and fitness. And I hope that this will be a very helpful episode for you guys. But before we tune out, I of course want to chat about your food for thought for today. And I actually want you to reflect on your fitness tracker. So based on your Apple Watch or your Fitbit or your Whoop or your Oura Ring, if you're wearing one of those, I want you to take an objective approach and really evaluate how you see this data. Do you let this data make you feel a certain way? So when you finish a workout and you see how many calories you burn on your Apple Watch, does that make you feel good or bad? And if it makes you feel bad, I want you to take a break from it, okay? So that's today's food for thought. I really want you to pay attention to your relationship with your fitness tracker. It can be beneficial, but it can also be harmful. And I want to make sure that we distinguish the difference between those two today. So excited to hear what comes up for you guys. Of course, my DMs are always open on Instagram at @GenerateAltman. So I'm excited to hear from you guys. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle You podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star rating and review to help others discover the magic we're creating together. If there's someone in your life who could benefit from listening to this episode, be sure to forward it along to them. You can also follow me on Instagram at Jenna Ray Altman for more helpful content, resources, and good vibes. As always, thank you so much for being here.